Hey, what's up guys? Blake Snodgrass here. Really cool video for you today. I'm going to be showing you an interview that I did with one of our Agency Collective members named Jacob. Jacob, whenever I met him, he was struggling to get clients and really scale his agency and also remove himself from fulfillment. He hadn't really structured out the business yet and structure it in such a way where he can start scaling quickly. But over time, and it was a very short amount of time, it was like 6 or 7 or 8 months, he scaled his agency from ground zero to, I'm not going to spoil it, but a very, very impressive revenue level. And in this video, he tells us the whole story. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope this is, number one, very motivational for you. If you're an agency owner that's struggling to grow, this, I promise you, will be a very motivational video to watch as you see someone talk about step by step how they grew their agency. And it'll also be very insightful as he talks about the building blocks he had to put in place as he grew. So if you're someone trying to grow your agency right now, this will be a very informative and instructional video as well. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Talk soon. Thanks. I'll let Jacob kind of tell his story, but the plan right now is to kind of let Jacob talk about, you know, where he was at in his agency when he hooked up with us at Agency Collective and what kind of problems he was solving. Jacob, maybe you can shed some light on which of like the 6 pillars was your main focus or main bottleneck or whatever. And then like what the journey has been like for him. Because Jacob, you grew your agency from virtually ground zero to what's your revenue level at right now, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I hit 60K, but in May we only did 53.
Okay, 53. So we're in that 53, 55, 60 range. We're in that range. Okay, cool. So, and that's like what, 8 months ish, 8 or 9 months?
August.
Yeah. So really, really cool. So a meteoric rise, right? Growing super, super quick. Was it a smooth ride, Jacob?
No.
A smooth path at all?
Not in terms of me, no. I mean, the help, yes. The help has been smooth, but no, it definitely was not smooth. It's getting smoother, but it definitely was not smooth in the beginning.
Sure, yeah. That's something I always want to make sure like people hear. If someone grows their agency from 0 to 60K per month in a short amount of time, it looks like they have everything figured out. In my experience, when you see really, really successful people, it's not that they have it figured out. It's just that they're good at figuring things out. Meaning like, it doesn't mean they have all the answers, but it means like they're obsessed with cultivating the ability to find answers, right? Yeah. Like being a problem solver. Like me, I work with a ton of agency owners. And so I have this like really unique perspective on like seeing which agency owners are thriving and which ones might be struggling. And the ones that are thriving are always the ones who are just like natural problem solvers. Now, luckily, I think even though some people it's like natural, I think that's a skill that can be developed. It absolutely was for me. Like I was not naturally like entrepreneurially minded or a problem solver or whatever. It had to be developed over time. But that's just like kudos to you really quick. Like that's what I see in you that has led to your success, in my opinion, is just your tenacity and willingness to solve problems along the way. So for what it's worth, man. So yeah, guys, that's the game plan for today. Like I mentioned earlier, to kind of go through Jacob's story and talk about how he grew his agency, and maybe we can do some Q&A at the end. So let's start from the beginning, man. Jacob, take us back to like when you and I started working together, like where your agency was at. I know you were, full-time job, like life looked a lot different than what it does now. So like what were things like when you started your agency or when you really started to grow it?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing on the problem solving you mentioned. Yes, I think I do kind of, have that problem solving in me. But that being said, communities like this are what help solve problems a lot faster rather than, scouring through YouTube and bad information, when you can talk to not only you, who we know is successful, but a whole group of people who have, talents across the board in this group. It always helps solve, problems right away. Somebody's seen it somewhere. But yeah, so
I agree. If I could just chime in again, like really quick with that, like a lot of the times when I'm talking to agency owners who are struggling to grow, and they might have fallen victim to like shiny object syndrome, and they're struggling to grow, and they think the answer is to continue to look for like more and more resources or more education or more courses or whatever, I've seen over time that it really comes down to getting in close proximity with other people who are on the journey. And obviously, this is like the whole basis behind Agency Collective, right? But information accumulation can only get you so far. When you reach a certain level, it truly becomes like getting around people who are on that same journey and people who are solving the same problems as you are every day, right?
Yeah.
This is why, like, I think I said this the other day in one of our support calls. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on real estate investing coaching programs because I'm trying to acquire more properties and invest a lot more myself. And it wasn't until I like invested in like a really like tight knit, more apprenticeship style thing that I started to really things started to click and I started to get results and I started to do life with these people who are doing things that I want to do, right? And that's the entire premise behind Agency Collective. So I appreciate you saying that, man. And I totally agree. So yeah, take us back. Take us back to what it was like when you started.
Yeah, so I don't know if a lot of people know, but I went through automatic agency, Blake's more like ad coaching program 2 years, well, I guess
A
3 years
while
ago,
back.
something like
Yeah.
that. Maybe 2019. And that was great. I learned a lot about doing the ad work and funnels and all that kind of stuff. And for 2 years, I mean, the most I ever made in a month was probably like 3 or 4 thousand. I struggled really to one, have the right mindset, and two, get clients of my own. Like the clients were mostly just people that I either knew or word of mouth or very low client, not the type of clients you wanted to have. And there were months where I just like was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with this marketing thing, and I have, my full-time job and two other businesses uh now, but I was just sort of lost with the marketing, but I always knew there was way more potential for it. And I just happened to still stay friends with Blake on Facebook and saw that he had started Cam. And it was very, very interesting to me because the main thing he was marketing was getting clients. Like, we struggle as agencies to get clients, even though we're so good at the work, is what it seems like, was a problem. And so that definitely, hit me pretty hard in the heart. And I just remember reaching out in, I think, the end of July or August, messaging you and being like, "Hey, is there still spots available for this course?" And you were like, "Not this month, but there is next month." And I was like, "Please, please put me in." And we got on a quick call. You kind of explained to me, how things were gonna go. And, it was, I think I said, the dreaded, I want to think about it. But it was like 2 hours later that I said, let's do it. So at that point, I had two clients, and one was just a friend that I've had for a long time. And so I was doing like about 2,500 a month, I believe,
Okay.
at that time. And I had no client acquisition really. I had tried a few ads in the past, spent, a couple $1,000 and pretty much got nothing or got some, really bad clients. And I just was really struggling, and I was pushing digital marketing, exactly what we teach not to do in terms of marketing your agency. So anyways, I got into the course and just immediately, started going through all of the trainings and showing up to every support call. I will say that is one thing. Obviously, I don't get on as much right now. I'm trying to buy my time back so I can get back to getting on them, but I did not miss a call when I first started. And
That is one thing that I've told people very recently about you and several others who have had very, very quick um, growth, very fast growth. Is like people who grow the fastest are the people who stay in really, again, same thing I was saying earlier, stay in really close proximity. You can go off and study by yourself as much as you want to, and that's great. But like these support calls that we do every single day, those are where you get the minute by minute type of feedback. Like, hey, my ad's doing this. Hey, I got an objection last hour when I was on a sale call, did this. Hey, I'm onboarding a prospect and we're having this client, like this issue, like whatever.
yeah,
Like that's like where it goes from having some information to like having partners that are like doing business with you, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I remember that phase. You were on every freaking call. I remember
yeah,
that.
exactly. And so the first thing I did, which is what a lot of us seem to do, is I pretty much just took the funnel that you had in the training, put my spin on it, and built it out and started running it. Just kind of, balls, I don't want to say that, all in. And I think it was September. Yeah, it was September. I spent like 3 or 4 grand on ads, and I did get a couple clients, but it was just sort of slow. Didn't really get, what I was looking for, but what it did for me, it gave me a foundation, right? To see what was going to work, to see where the tweaks I wanted to make. It got me talking to people, got me doing sales calls, got me calls to review. I even had you in on a sales call, which was really cool. Um, and it just basically gave me the reps, gave me the mindset, and kind of, gave me something to go off of. That's what we always say, like, you can't tweak something until something's there. And so then I started off contractor broad, which is kind of, how your training is set up. And then I niched it out a little bit. I had like 4 different types of contractor type things. And one was land clearing, because I had a client who did land clearing and I had success with him. Another one was pressure washing. For those of y'all that don't know, I own a pressure washing business. So I tried that one out, and I tried 1 or 2 other ones. I can't remember. And anyways, land clearing ended up doing good, and pressure washing did good. But pressure washing is different than land clearing. It's not high ticket. Pressure washing guys, 300 to $1,000 a job. So you have to get them a lot more to keep them busy, versus like a land clearing company or any high ticket business. You get them 1 or 2 and they're going to get an ROI on what they're paying you. And so then it was October, I believe, that I decided to niche down to land clearing. So I took all the funnels and everything and made it specific for land clearing. And between October and November is where it really, like, I think I closed like 20 something clients in 1 month. And that was just me. And I had
hold on. You closed 20 in one. I remember you saying you closed 10. I remember you and I did an interview where you said some insane stat. You said like 1 month you spent like $1,400 or $1,500 on ad spend and landed 10 clients. You closed 20 clients 1 month?
That was between like October and November.
Okay, gotcha.
That whole time period, because that's where I had like a really hard December, because I was trying to play catch up with all those clients I just closed. Yes, I believe November was 10 solid.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one we had interviewed about in January, I think.
Okay. Before let's pause again really quick, actually,
20.
if you don't mind. So before we continue, you just talked about like getting started and starting to really market your agency for the first time, which 95% of digital marketers never get around to actually marketing their agency. Let's be honest, right? Yeah, the cold prospecting, we can all learn the shiny LinkedIn strategy, whatever, but most agencies don't actually advertise and market their agency. So kudos to you. You got started on that. One thing I really wanted to park on for a second was the numbers he said. He said like he spent $3,000-$4,000, whatever, and maybe landed a couple clients. Is $1,500 cost per acquisition what we're looking for? No. And did you get it dialed in over time? Hell yeah. Like 10 clients in a month, right? Great. But it didn't start off perfectly, right? Not that you're looking for it, but just to give you some kudos and feedback. Like, again, one of the reasons you succeeded is because you treated it like a real business, and you said like, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to follow a proven process. Luckily, we have access to people around us. Again, the whole community aspect. I'm going to treat it like a business and invest in this. Now, luckily, we're not a Subway franchise or whatever that has to drop $75K, or an HVAC owner that has to go drop $300K on trucks. Digital marketing is fantastic. We can launch an ad and spend $1,000 and hopefully acquire our first client or two, right? But still, like, you treated it like a real business. You invested in it, and the most important thing in my mind is, if you like consider your agency like the flow of your agency, you got the water flowing. Like, you switched the faucet on. Yes. Again, 95% of agency owners never even get to that point, but you turned the faucet on. And then what can we do after we turn the faucet on? After the water is flowing, that gives you the ability to start tweaking for performance over time, right? Now, how long did it take for your customer acquisition cost? And we can pick up with the story. How long did it take for your customer acquisition cost to start to get dialed in? Because that first month, like, I'm not going to say it was rough. You got some clients, but a high client acquisition cost. So how did that dialing it in process look like for you?
Yeah, so by the time, well, when I hit the end of November, I had 20 clients then. So I went
Okay.
from 2 to 20 from August to November. And then I was kind of like in over my head because I had not outsourced any fulfillment or any account management, nothing. And so I was kind of like, knee deep in it at that point, which was a good problem to have. But once I niched everything down and I got my lead form set up right, that was when the cost per lead came way down. And that was when my cost per appointment was like $15. And I was getting leads for like, $5 to $10. And I was just talking to, as many people as I possibly could. And then that's when I jumped into the high level, which when I was by myself saved me a ton because I set up automations. And that's when my problem like flipped where I wasn't even talking to somebody unless they booked a call automatically. So then that's when my acquisition was kind of, in between then because I was probably losing out on some people that I wasn't talking to. But I was getting enough leads, like you said, to really start to be able to change my messaging to make sure that I was getting the right people. And I did bring on some clients in that initial wave that probably were not the best clients, but I just sold them because I was wanting more clients. And that's everyone learns that hard lesson. Uh, and so there was a few bad apples in there, but most of them were good. But yeah, I would say by December, my acquisition cost was pretty darn low, but my time was not good. I was doing like 10 to 12 calls a day, two or three of those being sales calls, or sometimes 4 or 5 sales calls in a day, and then still trying to fit in like, 5-minute intro calls while I was driving or something. So that was kind of a mess. So then the big thing that switched at the beginning of the year was I started looking for fulfillment and playing with that game. And then I started looking for a setter. And a setter was like the first really big change. And then like in the last 2 to 3 months, the sales guy was the huge change that kind of allowed me to push to the next level, I think.
Awesome, man. Okay, I've been taking notes this whole time. Um, guys, you should know, like I mean, when I say you should know, I mean we all know because we all know like how I teach the agency model and stuff. Like your agency is a series of pillars and a series of constraints that you have to fix, right? You have a water hose, there's a kink in the water hose, and we have to fix that constraint. Like that's how I view it. Your agency with the pillars of like lead generation, sales process, closing, onboarding, fulfillment, account management, each of those are going to have constraints. So I'm not trying to go into like little preaching mode right now or lesson mode, but I want y'all to realize, and I'm sure y'all already have, that Jacob just like solved one constraint at a time. He undid one kink at a time. I was taking notes as he was talking about this. Lead flow was the first constraint. Once he got, and each solution to a constraint will lead to the next constraint you have to solve. And guess what? This is entrepreneurship. Every day you wake up thinking, what is the constraint to my business? And I work on that. Okay. So lead flow was the constraint. He got that up and running. Then from there, the constraint was creative messaging to get his lead cost and appointment cost down. Okay. After that, that helped solve the constraint of cost per acquisition. After that, he had the constraint of he's still doing all the fulfillment, so it's a time issue. After that, it was the constraint of fixing the effectiveness of my pipeline, my follow-up system. Like that kind of goes with getting himself out of, getting some time back, right? After that, the constraint was his time, okay, taking all the intro and demo calls himself, and then fix that constraint, getting a setter, and then he's still taking all the closing calls, so fix that constraint, getting a closer. Y'all see how like it was like this, the water started flowing, and then he was able to dial and optimize each of those constraints over time. Are y'all seeing like that progression, guys? Okay, cool. I want everyone to see that because like that's what it's all about. It started with him like getting opportunity flowing in and then solving one constraint at a time. Again, to just sit here and toot Jacob's horn the whole time, like that's what he did very well. So, okay, so at the beginning of this year, you got a setter in place, then you got a sales guy in place, and so like what happened from there?
Oh, real quick, Philip, bad clients was basically like maybe I didn't set the expectation well. There was one of those people who like I had a couple of them that was like, here's the price, and they're like, I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, what can you do? And then those are the client that 6 weeks later, they're like, I didn't get what I thought I was gonna get, and I want my money back, blah blah blah. And I pretty much, I talked to Blake a lot during those times about those bad clients, and I got advice there. I'm pretty sure I even asked in the group about some people because I just didn't know how to handle it. And I never want to deal with negative. I remember Blake said this a long time ago when he was talking about account management, but every time his phone would buzz, he would just be worried that it was like a mad client. And it's just because we care, right? We want to provide a good service. And we know that's the thing that's hard for me is when I know we can be successful and really help people, and there's just something that's not connecting where they're not getting exactly what they expected. It just makes me sick because like I know we can help this person, but there's some people who can't be helped. Some people can't sell the work. Some people don't know how to talk. Some people don't get to the leads fast enough. They don't use the resources that you give them, and that's a bad client, in my opinion.
And that's why it's so like important to communicate to the client. Like this is a partnership. It's the whole thing. Like I can lead a horse to water, right? Like we're gonna put you in front of more people and help you get more leads and help market your company. But then you have to close the deals. Number one, like let's figure out like set expectations around what this partnership looks like, right? Number two, what Philip just said in the chat right here, like expectations. Philip says that's why I have an expectation slide. I was bragging on that the other day, Philip. I was talking to someone and I was like, you should go watch the support call from yesterday where Philip showed us his expectation slide because it was really, really good. It was like SEO month 1 through 3. Here's what you should expect. Month 4 through 6. Here's what you should expect. And it laid it out very clearly and simply. So expectations are huge. But you're right. I think you put it best, Jacob, when you said some people just can't be helped. That's point number one for me. I have 2 points. Point number one is some people just can't be helped. It's an attitude thing, it's a mentality thing, etc. And then number two is when it comes down to the prospect. Oh, never mind. That's kind of a non-issue. But yeah, some people can't be helped. It's an attitude thing, and you just have to set the right expectations. That's the main thing. So I agree.
Yeah. Oh yeah. John, how long does this take from getting ads, pulling calls to everything getting dialed in? I would say like a solid 2 to 3 months. Like 2 months in, it was getting better, and then 3 months, it was like really rolling. But I did have pretty much a solid month that financially you could say it was a waste, but it really wasn't a waste because I learned a lot from it, if that makes sense. Like there wasn't a direct return money wise, but there was definitely a return in learning, which turned into a return money wise in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So January, I started looking for a setter, and we kind of talked about this on a post the other day, but I ended up paying into some sales training thing that also got you a setter, Cole Gordon. I don't know if y'all ever heard of him, but it was kind of ridiculously expensive, but it got me like they gave me 4 setters to interview, and I basically did mock calls with them, interviewed them, and there's this one kid in there who he was 17 years old. I can't believe I did it, but I'm so glad I did it. He's 17 years old, still in high school, but he ran his own agency prior to this, but couldn't get clients. But he knew the game. He was super familiar with high level already. So I was like, man, this feels right. I'm going to give this guy a chance. And he has been amazing, like amazing. And like even the clients compliment him all the time. He has been awesome. I'm glad I gave him a shot. And he's probably the richest self-made 17-year-old right now. He makes so much money off of us, but it's totally worth it. And I'll just
isn't that the best feeling when you have someone on your team making a lot of money? Obviously,
yeah.
on the back end, it's making your company a lot of money, but it's a very good feeling to have a team member that is making bank. So Cole Gordon, I used him as well before. Yeah, not cheap, right? That's where I got but good. That's where I got my closer for my agency. I didn't hire a setter through them, but I hired a closer. My opinion nowadays is the best place to start looking for setters and closers is your personal network, people who are around you already know the game, already familiar with the agency space, etc. But I've no issue with like recruiters, as long as, okay, I'm gonna take 60 seconds here and park on this little soapbox. With recruiting companies, you have to make sure they're good. I happen to know Cole Gordon's good, and they don't just like run ads and recruit closers who want a business opportunity stuff. They actually like headhunt and recruit from LinkedIn and stuff like that. One quick piece of advice whenever you're going to a recruiter is you want to like ask them about how they're getting the recruits, how they're getting the salespeople. Because a lot of those people will post ads online that say like, hey, do you want to make money remotely closing deals? Apply here. And then they apply, and then they go through a basic sales course, and then they get put on an offer or a business, right? We don't want closers who just learned how to sell in the past 30 days, right? So you got to figure out how they're sourcing their closers. Cole Gordon, like they're good. And since I used his service for getting a closer, I have all of his training materials as well. And that dude knows his stuff. They really do. So
yeah, he's got all kinds of documents too.
For sure, really good. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I went through his. It's like a 2 hour long operations training. I mean, the guy just really knows business. He knows his stuff. So, anyways, Jacob, back to you. So January, February, got a setter, got a closer, and did that help? Like, how did things start to look after that?
Yeah, so the setter was the first like breath of fresh air because one, I was now talking to all of the clients rather than just the ones who booked a call because he was talking to every single one of them. And then I was not on the phone for 8 hours a day, which was just, kind of stressing me out. It was a good problem to have, but and you know what? I was on the phone all day and I had to qualify every one of them. So I'm just talking to unqualified people all day too, and then booking sales calls and stuff. So that was a huge breath of fresh air. But then he was really good and still is. And so he was booking crazy sales calls, like, 4 or 5 a day. And that was getting to be a lot because I still had not gotten, I was starting to get fulfillment with 51. I was kind of like, that's a whole thing I skipped, by the way, y'all. I've never in my life known anything about SEO before I got into this training. And still, like, I know what it is and how to talk about it. But really, I can't say, oh, yeah, I'll go do some solid SEO for you. Never. I've never been an SEO person, but I sell SEO every day, right? And so that was the first thing I did was like, okay, I have to find fulfillment for this. And then I was still doing all of the ads myself. So I still had a lot of fulfillment going on there. And I trialed 51 and that didn't, I mean, it worked for the time, but not as well as Agency Elevation is doing for me now. So that's kind of skipping a few steps there. But so that was another huge thing was starting to sell SEO that helped sell bigger packages and longer client value, right? But then, yeah, so the setter, sorry, I'm jumping back and forth.
No, you're good.
Kept me really, really busy. And basically, he was the one who told me, like, dude, we really need to get a sales guy in here because you don't have enough time. And I was like, okay, do you know anybody? Now, this is where it gets insanely specifically crazy because his dad happened to be a closer and a really good one. And so I can't make this up. So I hired his dad without having to pay $10,000 to a recruiter. And his dad closes like 38% and he closes better than me. We record all of his calls and go over them and stuff. And so then in March is when he started. And so then, March, April, May, I've had record months, and that's partly because of him and partly because of, getting fulfillment. And then in May is when I started working on account management. So
that's awesome, man. Randy had a question about what you like about Agency Elevation, and then I have a question about some of the timeline stuff.
Yeah.
So like, why do you, we don't want to say negative things about Pete, like whatever, but like, what do you like about Agency Elevation? I am curious.
So I know some people have had communication issues with them, but pretty much I have a Slack channel with them. And if I message them, they are back to me within an hour. And like, I don't even have to go in a thread. Like, I don't use proper Slack etiquette at all. I just like type it in my thing and they'll tag the appropriate person and they'll do something. Their turnaround is crazy. Like, I've had days before where I sign a client up, and within a day or so, they've got a new campaign up. They're also pretty snazzy with like the conversions. So they set up all my conversions for PPC campaigns. They will also write content, and they're pretty good at that. But they're fast, they're knowledgeable, and they do good work. Like they I had a recent client sign up. This is a pretty good example. It was a Friday, of course, and I was like, hey, this guy, he wants results fast. I gave him the usual timeline, but any chance we can get this up fast. They finished it on the Friday. Ads ran over the weekend. Dude had like 5 leads Monday morning. Now, obviously, we can't expect that for all clients, but he was super happy, and obviously I was super happy. And you talk directly to the people doing the work. That's what I really, really like. Versus with, other people I had tried, you're more so talking to an account manager. And so stuff kind of would get lost in translation, or they would, it just, you could tell you were not talking to the person who was actually doing it. And the person you generally, like, if you were upset and you'd get on like not upset, but if you were misaligned and you get on a support call, the person talking to you is great at talking and explaining to you, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then it kind of was like disconnected with what actually happened on the results end. And I found out that was mostly because they're outsourcing as well. Versus with Agency Elevation, I'm literally talking to the person who's doing the work. And so if I need something changed, they're not perfect. They've still made plenty of mistakes since I've been working with them, but I'll just say, hey, here's a mistake. They usually fix it with like in an hour.
Yeah, that's awesome. What you just said is really important. They make mistakes too. Every white label company makes mistakes. Like, I mean, all of them. They all have pros and cons in the same way that we do, right? But I have a unique perspective. Like, I talk to so many white label companies, and we vet a bunch of people. At the end of this month, we have a new one who's going to come in and provide value to our community and teach, and they may end up on our preferred vendors list because they seem really good because I've vetted them and personally interviewed them. But long story short, I have this perspective of like all these white label companies, and I have the scoop, right? Yeah. And Agency Elevation right now is the one for me that is seems to be doing the best work and looks most impressive. Now, they don't do your account management for you completely, which is something Randy asked about, I believe. So what are you doing about that? Is that the next phase you're moving into, or like what's going on there?
Yeah, so I was doing all of that, which basically means I was not doing all of that I should be doing. It was just kind of fly by night, checking accounts every day and talking to people when I needed to, and sending, probably not as good of reports as I could have. And onboarding was kind of clunky. I actually pay my sales guy a little bit more to do some onboarding for me, which kind of helps too. But account management, in May, I got someone doing account management for me, which currently is my wife, but she has been stellar at it, and great at talking to clients and getting stuff organized, all the kind of the background stuff. But she's only going to be able to do that for so long if we keep growing. So, I'll definitely look at that. But I will say, Randy, to your question, I thought that the client facing stuff was going to be a lot cooler with 51, and my expectations were probably just a little too high. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And that's pretty much the biggest thing. So in my opinion, it wasn't worth it for what you got. And it was most basically just emailing, just automated emails to the client. And sometimes like the names would be wrong, or the info would be wrong. And so it's just having to explain stuff like that was sort of weird. And so I like this new setup better. And also, like, when I signed up with Agency Elevation, I moved over 27 clients, I think. And so their bulk discount was amazing.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely the setup I would prefer as well. If I had to pick a white label right now, I'm probably going with AE, and then I would use an in-house account manager as well. We got fulfillment. It's good. It's rocking and rolling. It's quality. We have direct communication with the techs, the DMEs, as my white labeler used to call them, digital marketing engineers. And then having an in-house account manager who handles the communication and the reporting. And then also, identifying happy clients and upsells and cross sells and testimonials and all that stuff as well. A lot of people have 20K per month agencies that could have a 30K per month agency in the next month if they just cross sold and upsold their current happy clients. One of our members in Agency Collective, Michael, experienced that. He was like, oh, I should reach out to current clients and sell them SEO. They're not already doing SEO. And he like added 5K per month in MRR in like 1 week. So it's a big opportunity for a lot of people. Okay. So can you give me like going back, do you remember like the timeline of revenue growth? So like October, you were making like 10K per month. September, we were at 20K. When the new year rolled around, we were at 30K. Like, do you remember what the progression was like from there?
I can find out in about 30 seconds.
Love to hear that. Have you been using tracking sheets day to day for your sales?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I am so bad at that. No,
I'm like, tell me your cost per acquisition down to the penny right now. Can't do it. I'm disappointed.
I do have that number actually. For 2023, my cost per acquisition is $657.
Solid. That's good. Wait, what?
657.
657?
Yeah.
Is Josh on this call? No, he's not. I swear to you, down to the number, that is his number.
Really?
He was messaging me earlier. Wait, hold on. Let me double check that while you're looking for your spreadsheet.
Okay.
I'm not joking. 657. I was messaging with him earlier. That's wild. Hey, the methods are consistent, everyone.
Yeah. So
okay. You got that pulled up?
In August, I did 2,500, like I said. September, and I started with you in August. September, I did 5,650. October was 12,800. November was 40,897.
Big jump.
Kind of a big jump there. I want to say December was maybe not as good because then I was in over. Oh, well, no, never mind. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt. I did 60K in December, but one client pays me annually, and he paid in December for tax purposes. So I was probably still right around 40 to 45, I guess, because he paid me annually. And then January. Oh, okay. So I did, let's see, 82 minus 17. This is why I should have it all on a sheet.
You're good. And by the way, just like collectively from us, thank you for being so transparent. This is not to sound cheesy real quick, but like this is the type of community we want. Agency Collective, people who are like, yeah, here's my numbers, check it out, like everything, right? Being an open book. So thanks for that. Yeah. So January, what were you saying?
January is showing 82, but that doesn't seem right. I don't remember it being 82. Let me look at February.
What would you?
I was hanging right around the 30K range. Oh, that's what it's doing. It's because it's adding up. Sorry. It's still on here we go. Yes, there we go.
By the way, if anyone has any questions that have been in your brain, just jot them down on the chat and we can get to those.
So yeah, January was 23, but I did go to Colorado at the beginning of January. So I didn't close a whole lot of new clients then. And that was also when I was going through the sales training. So I did 39 in February. And then let's see, March. March was 25. That was when I was training a new sales guy. So I hung right around that 25 to 30K range. And then I did 60,738 in April. So that was when I made the big jump when the sales guy was really killing it.
Okay, gotcha.
And then May was 53.
53. Okay, gotcha. So we kind of like November, we started to get up to like 40,000, big spike in December because we had that one-time payment. January and February, March dipped a little bit, but now we have sales team in place and now we're consistently hitting like the 55, 60-ish range, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how you see like, okay, yeah, there's spikes and like outliers here and there, but you kind of see like the ebbs and flows as we're solving problems. And then once each problem we solve, it gets a little bit more consistent and whatnot. That's just how it goes. But you feel pretty confident now that you have setter in place, closer in place, lead generation is good, account management in place, fulfillment in place. Like you feel pretty solid right now.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
The
Like,
question becomes, what are you doing with all your time? Are you just out there golfing every day or what?
no, I'm running a pressure washing and a business and an RV rental business.
Overachiever. He's like, I'm gonna get all this fulfillment and account management off my plate so I can go run 3 more businesses.
Pretty much. I'm
Sick.
hopefully I can outsource some fulfillment on those as well.
Dude, I'll tell you what. If I was running any kind of manual labor business, I'd be outsourcing fulfillment from day one. Y'all have no clue. How many hours a week are you spending on the agency? Because again, you have a lot of that stuff off your plate. Your business, and surely I would love to hear your perspective on like how different things are now from being a solopreneur to running a business. But now you're a business owner. You've built a machine that's running itself. I would love to hear like emotionally how that feels for you. But then secondly, like what are you doing in the day to day right now?
So my family definitely loves it a lot more because I'm just way more present. I'm around a lot more. And when I'm around, I'm not on the phone 24/7. Like
Sure.
I do, Slack messages throughout the day. I also have a Slack channel for my team. And then, of course, for Agency Elevation. And basically, once a day, I'll spend about an hour going through. I have everyone in high level. So I'll go through, look at all of their reporting, see if anybody is not where they should be, double check, Agency Elevation's progress with new clients, look at how much we're spending versus, how many leads we're getting. Are the leads looking good? Do I need to change something up with the ads or whatever? But I'd say probably 2 to 3 hours a day.
Yep.
Agency
And it sounds
stuff.
like mostly it's general team check-in, managing the overview of like making sure clients are good, etc. Just like again, oversight type stuff,
Mhm.
overseeing ish, and then making sure lead gen is good, right?
Yep. And a little bit of finance stuff. I'll be honest, I did have like 2 or 3 months this year that I spent a lot of money. Well, the sales course was kind of expensive, and then just like I don't know, it just seems to kind of go out quick. And there was a couple months where I spent a lot. When I got the sales guy really rolling, I jumped the ad spend up to about 250 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ad spend kind of jumped up really quick, but
Yep.
we've still remained super profitable through it all.
That's
But
good.
I'm kind of in that mode of growing, so I'm not like
Yeah.
the business is just spending money to grow. I'm not really like trying to stack it up right now.
Yeah. Well, that's still awesome, man. One of these days we might do like a really in-depth financial training. As my income started to grow and grow and grow, it just seems like expenses will just flow out of your business so effortlessly. Like it comes and then it goes, right? And so like as your revenue increases, it becomes more and more and more important to track your expenses with an iron fist or however you want to say it. I got to the point to where, and I still do this. It takes me 2 minutes. It's not a biggie, but I update my expense report every day. I still do it to this day. Every single day, I update 2 main sheets: my ads tracking sheet, 2 minutes, and then my expense report. I log on to my bank account. I copy the transactions from yesterday and paste them into a spreadsheet, and then I itemize them. And it takes me 2 or 3 minutes, but I do that every day. And so at any point in time, I can look at my expense report. I could do it right now for the month of May, and I can see total income, total expenses, and then I have like 10 categories of like itemized, like, okay, here's marketing, here's payroll, here's whatever. And I can see like, okay, 22% of my income went to payroll, like 19% of my income went to marketing, and I can look at all that. And so that's another thing I'm like tracking. Okay. I know my, this type of expense needs to be within this certain range. Right. And
Yeah.
so like getting so much more specific about expenses as well as you scale is super important because let's
Yeah.
face it, it's not about generating revenue. It's about keeping it, right? It's not about making money.
Yeah.
It's about keeping it. And so expenses become so much more important. So,
Yeah, I should definitely probably make one of those sheets. I mean, I keep an eye on what goes in and out, but I don't have it down to the T like on a spreadsheet like I
yeah, I
should.
believe that spreadsheet actually is in the resources section for everyone. Randy said, "How are you using high level to show where your clients are at?"
Do you want me to, can I pull it up real quick?
Heck yeah, it'd be awesome. And then you said, "Hard part of growing fast is staying on top of cash flow." Yeah, for sure. Okay, make co-host. There you
Oh,
go.
and Philip, uh, yes, honestly, like websites do good money. That's the one thing I have not outsourced yet. So if I have a website come up, that's something I have to do. Uh, but it kind of is annoying to me because also it's going to be slower results for the client usually because if they have a brand new website, it's going to take forever for them to start getting ranked, you know. But yeah, and I could show you my slides. But yeah, most of guys in my niche don't have a good website or they don't have a website. So okay, so this is mine in case y'all wanted to see it. This is just for this year, 990 Facebook leads, averaging about 21 bucks. Uh, but for the clients, let me show you one. This is where I go to look at pretty much all their stuff too.
Okay, so your clients have their own snapshot and setups inside GHL. So at any point in time, you could go to that client, and you probably have their, advertising stuff attached to that, so you can like just dive right in and see how their campaigns are performing and whatnot.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So like this guy here, I don't normally look at when I make my reports, I'll show them this. Uh, high level just connects it to it. I know some people charge for high level, kind of like SaaS stuff or whatever. I rope it in like it's included, so it's kind of like a value stack for my packages. But I'll usually just come over here because I have an automation for them to get the leads, and I'll just look and make sure, they're getting, a lead a day or so, or maybe a little more. And then if I see they haven't had a lead like in a week or something, I'll reach out to them or I'll look up into their campaigns and kind of see, what's going on. But there's some people who get like I look at their phone calls, I'm like, holy crud, this guy's got quite a few phone calls last month, 32. And then some people have Facebook, some people have Google. SEO side, more so I just look at the maps, like the heat maps or whatever. But yeah, so that's just how I look at it on high level. You can look at it from a glance if you do agency view. And like if I want to see, okay, I want to make sure that people got leads this week, I can come here and then everyone that's here, I can see their submissions, their calls. Like this guy, he actually uses it. Like most of these people don't even use high level. They just get the automations, but this guy, he actually talks to all of his clients through it. And so yeah, I just go through and make sure people are getting leads, and I'll sometimes I'll scroll down and be like, okay, this guy hadn't got one, let's see what's going on with him or whatever.
Randy asked if they all use their own Twilio numbers so you can like track their calls and whatnot.
Yeah, everyone gets a trackable number. I have a few guys who already had one that wanted to use their own, but most of them I just get them a new one every time they set up account because most guys don't have one.
Nice, cool, very cool, man. Very organized. I like it.
I like high level. I mean, I don't use it probably to its full potential, but if you wanted to, I know we can get lost in the weeds in this, so just anybody ask a question, but if you wanted to see kind of how the pipeline goes, uh, so this is the setter's pipeline after the leads come in, so he can keep track of all of his stuff. Good lead, book, set, close, follow up, not qualified. And then this is the sales guys pipeline. And so he actually keeps track of all this stuff himself. They both can get in here to high level and see everything themselves.
Very
So
cool. Awesome, man. Very, very cool. I have a broader question real quick. I feel like this will be helpful to people that are on the come up as you've been through. Yeah, super general question. What's the biggest lesson you feel like you learned? I mean, surely as you got started, you had a certain perspective of like what this was going to be like, what I was going to have to do. Like, you know, you had a certain perspective of the road ahead. I'm sure that perspective is absolutely different now that you look back on the road, right? Like, what's the biggest lesson you learned, and what was the most unexpected thing that you had to tackle along the way, if you will?
I didn't think it was possible at all. I'll be completely transparent. I totally lived paycheck to paycheck before this. Um, very, very, that's very much so. My whole life, my parents, both like my biological dad and then my parents were poor pretty much our whole life. Like not like poverty, but just lower middle class. They also lived paycheck to paycheck. So to me, it just didn't really seem like it was ever possible. Like I kind of had like the hope, like, dude, if I could make like 10 grand a month, like holy crap. And so I didn't really think it was possible. So that mindset flip really helped me.
Yep.
Your agency finance thing, the the one that's purple and green that
Mm-hmm.
you showed from the beginning, I've used that from the beginning to kind of track. And so far I've kept up with the projections, which has been
Dude,
really cool to see that.
that's a big accomplishment. That's awesome.
Heck yeah. And then, like I kind of mentioned earlier about like the SEO and the websites and stuff, I had no background in that. And my only background in the ads was what I learned in automatic agency and like the 2 or 3 clients I had through that. So I wasn't even like an ad expert either. And so I kind of thought, how could I grow this agency when I don't know all of this stuff? And I learned about white labeling. Like I remember starting in this and wondering like, what the heck is white label? Like I've never even heard of that. And so learning about white label fulfillment was huge. And, thinking about hiring people, I had never, hired anybody. That was a huge thing. So I guess the number one lesson is yes, it's possible. Change your mindset.
Yeah. I say it quite a bit. Like don't skimp on the mindset trainings and stuff we have in our curriculum. Not to make this about me or whatever, but just like in general, working on your mindset is huge. There are some agency owners that I work with where they'll be asking me daily like how do I do this or get this dialed in with my ads or get this dialed in or whatever. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, man, if I can just work on your mindset and tweak who you are and your perspective a little bit, all that other shit will, excuse me, all that other stuff will work itself out. Like you will figure all that stuff out if you fix your mindset, become a problem solver, change the attitude, change your perspective a little bit, etc. Right. And
Yeah.
so you have always had a super positive attitude and like you've always been like really determined and tenacious. So kudos to you on that. But the mindset shift for you was more about, like you just said, learning what was possible. And I'm sure like as you landed one client and then the next one and then the next one, it started to feel more and more real and that motivation continues to push you, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Feeling a plan come together in real time is like the most motivating thing in the world, right?
Yeah. Well, and then knowing you have like good team. Like I can remember stressing out so bad about trying to get conversion tracking set up for something, just like hours of trying to figure something out. And now, like I just type in Slack, hey, can we set up conversions for this account? And then it's done. Like,
Yep.
oh, that's such a cool feeling, and to know that you don't have to learn 20 hours of a new skill to be able to produce the results. I mean, it's good to know the stuff so you know what you're
Sure.
talking about, but you don't have to be an expert in everything.
Yep.
And
And
I think
it's
that's
it's
kind
a
of what I
parallel to every other business, right? Typically it's not the owner who's doing the frontline work, right? Nor should it be, because if it was, the business probably wouldn't be growing, right?
yeah,
So that's really, really cool. So I was taking notes while you were just saying big lessons, mindset, learning what's possible, and then learning how to outsource and hire and get fulfillment and things off your plate so you can focus on scaling, right?
right. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Really, really cool. Any questions for Jacob, guys? Jacob, thank you so much for doing this. I know this is the second time or maybe even third time we've had you on to kind of share your story and share what you're up to and what the journey has been like for you. I felt like this was probably going to be pretty helpful for people to see like what your come up was like, and how even though you grew quickly and are still growing quickly, there were things along the way that you really had to troubleshoot and solve, and all that stuff. So, any questions, guys, before we hop off? We're like, oh, Johnny on the spot, almost right at the hour here, dude. That's so crazy that your cost per acquisition is 657, and so is Josh's. I'll screenshot it. I'll show you later, like down to the number.
Hey,
Someone was raising their hand. Yeah, Philip, and I think Thomas, you too. Yeah, Philip, go ahead.
yeah, I got like 1 minute, but you reporting, Agency Elevation has their reports dashboard. How do you go about reporting? You said you use Go High Level to look at everything, but I'm wondering, like, what does that look like for you?
I have never seen Agency Elevation's reporting yet, but yeah, so I use the heat map from Local Dominator because of Josh. I was originally using like Local Falcon. I just think that the Dominator one looks a little cooler. But then yeah, I just screenshot basically their high level stuff that's connected, and I'm like, okay, you got X amount of leads, and you spent, X amount of money. I think to do better next month, we may need to do this, or we're working on this, just literally like one paragraph in an email with their screenshots connected to it. And just so they know what they got. Because some people, they don't even know the difference of, whether the work came from you or not. And there's somebody at Blake may have said it or somebody else, but basically if you don't tell them what you're doing, they don't think you're doing anything. So it's very basic. You got this much, this is what we've done, this is what we're doing, this is what we're looking at.
It's a very common phrase around here. If you don't tell the client that you're working, they will assume you're not working.
Yeah.
So,
and by
reporting is good.
telling them you're working, you're just pretty much showing results. You're not showing like, we got these backlinks, we got these citations.
No, none of that.
Because I don't even,
like, if I added content or something, I'd be like, yeah, hey, we put a bunch of service pages on your website or something, but that's pretty much it.
Awesome. But we use Kai Bax's team for our media buying. So let me just speak from the perspective of a client for a second. If they gave me reporting every week that was like, hey, Blake, we're super pumped to show you these results. Here's your CPMs for this past week. I'd be like, I don't care. Like, you're wasting my time talking about that. Like, tell me our appointment flow and our appointment costs. So yeah, clients just want to know, give me the juicy stuff. Like, yeah, what results, how many phone calls we're getting, our cost per phone call, like all that stuff. Thomas, what's up? I think you had a question.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Jacob. You had some great things I've never thought about that you've been doing. My question was more towards you. I was just wondering, have you ever considered like Market Hire or any companies like that where you actually hire in an employee for that? Or is that where you actually get what the reason I'm asking is more for not just fulfillment, but as far as reporting and stuff like that? Has anybody used them at all for anything like that, for being a report manager or anything?
I would not be able to answer that question for you. I have not looked into any account management outside of when 51. I thought they were going to do sort of account management, but no, I have not looked into anything like that right now.
Thomas, we have a guest speaker next week actually named Pete Kiner, and he specializes in recruiting and placing account managers. And we have at least one, maybe two people from AgencyCollective that have used him and said they got really good results and they were able to get a good hire. So that may be a good one for you to look out. I mean, shoot, I could connect you with him today, but just FYI.
Oh yeah, I'm not ready for it yet. I'm doing my due diligence on everything.
Sure.
I need to know everything. So
yeah, we were talking about this the other day, and I still think that like the best place to get an account manager type of role is from your current network, finding some. I've always been about, you guys have heard of the book like Good to Great, Jim Collins, I think. Is that the right name? He talks about this concept of getting the right people on the bus. And this is the concept of like hiring people based on who they are and the quality of like them as a person, and if they match your culture, et cetera, because we can teach them to do certain tasks and certain skill sets along the way, right? If I was hiring an account manager, I would try to like post on my own like Facebook or LinkedIn, tap into my network and be like, hey, I'm hiring for this role. If you know someone that has really good communication skills, good relationship development skills, and wants a a part-time, eventually full-time job, either remote or local, like send them my way and just like see what you can get from that and start to have interviews with people and judge them based off of them as a person. Right. And then we could teach them how to be an account manager after the fact. But I think it's more about finding the right fit for your company. You know what I mean? Now, of course, there's some roles where everything I just said does not fly. If you're hiring a Google Ads manager, they got to know stinking Google Ads, right? So, but that's my 2 cents there.
Yeah, my wife doesn't know anything about, well, she's starting to learn, but she didn't know anything about the business, but she's personable and was able to talk to people and be understanding, and people love talking to her, even if she doesn't know, super specifics. And most of the time people don't want to know specifics anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody who's personable, definitely bigger over somebody who knows a lot. And that I learned that with the setter too, is he was just coachable and teachable, and he had some pretty rough calls, and he was kind of talking more like a Gen Z on the phone initially, and we just kind of coached him to say sir instead of bro, and unless it was somebody you could give out that was a bro. But he was very coachable, and I think that's huge, personable and coachable.
That's something I had to teach Madeline. When she came on, she just said bro all the time. She was like, what's up, bro? What's up, bro? And I was like, I'm just kidding. Funny story though about hiring your wife. I hired my wife one time for a day. In my first agency, I got to the point where I was looking for an account manager, and I got this great idea. Like Christy was kind of in transition with her career, and I was like, oh, she could be my account manager. And so I hired her, and I swear to you guys, like the first official day she was working with me, I asked her to do something like send an email to a client, and it was like, she's like, nope, don't like that. Like, don't want to take direction from like, there's no way. Like, I'm the boss. So it was just super funny. Anyways, yeah, we'll talk about Madeline's bro thing later, but working on that. Anyways, anyone else have any questions? This was I feel like a pretty insightful session. Thank you so much for your time, Jacob. It's been really cool to watch you grow over this past year and develop these skill sets. Most importantly, the skill set of like problem solving within this business model and dialing in this machine we call an agency. It's been really cool to watch. So awesome. Appreciate you, man. And everyone have an awesome day. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
See you guys. Bye.